Yes. Okay. Cool. So Sunday market breakdown. So essentially, you've got my watch list and my wild cards here, but I'm also going to be, if I've got time at the end, I'll talk about the ones that I filtered out and the ones that I've put on for potentially going to shape up the week after and why. So, yeah, let's jump straight into it. DXY. So, DXY, I've basically left this one blank actually. Only got two ray lines on it. Essentially, it's been selling off quite nicely, to be fair. Wasn't unexpected, but more so, um, it was always a possibility on the table. So the way I see it is that we are committing to this sort of downside. There's a few inflection points on the way. However, sort of looking at this kind of getting rejected now, you know, I'm not too. Um, I wouldn't say I was ever fixated, but I wouldn't say I'm too keen on, just looking at the buy now. I think, sell is definitely on the table. Definitely think that we just need some structure. If we can get something to just develop, even something a little bit larger wouldn't be too much of a problem. But this something like this would be perfect. And then I would look for 1, 2, 3 in there, and then that's basically how I would be looking to capitalize to the downside. So at the moment, I think DXY has definitely got some potential, and I was contemplating to leave Euro USD on and look for the buy, but I think Euro USD is one of those ones as well where if the Dixie does sell off, Euro's going to go, and I think it's definitely something that I really was thinking about keeping on. But I think once this actually starts committing a lot more, we're going to see a bigger image, and then when we do get some really nice structures forming, we can really capitalize. But it's yeah, now's a real critical time. I mean, if we do suddenly just pull back quite rapidly next week, then obviously that will paint another picture for myself, and then I may be looking at that high again. But at the moment, this is the sort of target zone low I'm looking at, and I'm just going to evaluate how price gets there. Six. So the next one I've got on watch is silver. What I really like about silver is we are coming to retest this sort of line in the sand low, but that isn't the main context of the trade. What I do like is the structure that's forming within this. So we broke this, and with no surprise, we did start to sort of pull back, but we didn't get any solid commitment, and price began to stall, creating structure. We have a daily higher time frame pattern, which is a 1, 2, 3, and then within there we have a pattern within a pattern with RO3 of well, it began very corrective and then had some sort of impulse to it, but then it started becoming structural as we reached the high because we didn't commit back low. So what I do like about this is in terms of a pattern within a pattern, we are going to meet with a inflection point or perhaps maybe a higher time frame override. So right now, what I'm looking at is this 1, 2, 3 with this potential override here, which does meet with this, which would be no surprise if we do get that scoop and sell off, or if we do push further and we go for the third touch, or don't quite make it, but we get close enough and then sell off. That's something else I'll be looking at. So that's really the main trades, and I think silver is definitely a hot pair for me this week. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on silver, but I do like the pattern within a pattern, larger, higher time frame structure, overrides. There's a lot of good context here for this trade. Next one is EuroCAD. EuroCAD's quite pretty nice too. I think I do like the fact that we have an expanding in here. So what I do like is similar to silver, we are coming to retest this sort of high here as well, this low, but we don't have to. I mean, more so, I'm more interested in this override sections. So this override somewhat meets with this level over here. So we can just pretty much pull off and sell, but then we have the higher time frame override over here, which isn't the most significant point, but between here and here, it's quite significant. And then obviously we have like some small sections in on the side. Um, so yeah, we have the overrides, and then we have this. So I'm looking at it two ways. This is an expanding, potentially taking, looking to take this as a reversal. Um, Seeing this as a 1, 2, 3, seeing this as a potential, well, it is the confirmed middle section at this point, and then this is the override, which we've bypassed ever so slightly, but we can still pull back in, forming a 4-hour retrace. Or if we do get that, I'm not going to be looking to take the retrace candle, but I'll look down for the push down on the flag, and then if I just drill into the 1 hour, This will be my line in the sand essentially. So if we can break below this section here, create a flag, that's what I'll be looking to enter. Worst case scenario, not worst case, better case scenario, we do continue to push up, we create some structure, we stall for a few days, either we squeeze or we create a really nice RO3 to the 123, and then we push down and create a nice flag, and then we go for the sell. So that would be the gameplay I'll be looking to take on EuroCAD, and I think EuroCAD's going to be a phenomenal instrument to trade if we do get that commitment to the downside. Next one I've got is Aussie CAD. Now, Aussie CAD is similar to EuroCAD, with no major surprise there. But what I do like about this particular instrument is that we are coming to an inflection point, but it's not the cleanest as well. So you have to really read between the lines. I do like that we have these scoops. Now, these arc in nature scoops definitely are giving me some sort of nice vibes towards this trade. Um, Definitely, we're having a little bit of a squeeze towards the end when I zoom in, but we have a mini double top bottom at over here at the bottom, and then we have a possible near miss. So as we created that middle section, we didn't quite make it to the bottom. We retraced and started pushing up quite rapidly. So it does potentially leave a clue that we might be filling the middle section, sorry, filling the low eventually. And then how we've been moving is fairly, well, very much impulsive, but this was corrective. And then we just impulsed up. So I'm quite neutral in terms of the approach at the moment, but I will still opt in for the push down and a flag, despite having the potential phase line entry. I don't think a phase line entry is for me at this point. I don't think I have enough experience on Aussie CAD to be taking the phase line, but I'll definitely wait for the push down and a flag. Aussie CAD does tend to present quite messy opportunities on the first flags, as I've noticed, but I would be looking for a two-touch override on that first flag. So or I'll potentially have to evaluate it when it comes. I can't really, you know, speculate on that. But what I do see right now is we have the 1, 2, 3. We have the override, so the 1, 2, 3 leading into it. We have the squeeze, which isn't the cleanest, but it's definitely squeezing towards this area. As price is now slowing down and getting a little bit more choppy, I wouldn't be surprised if we did get some sort of like little sell off, push up, sell off, push up, sell off, push up, and then this squeeze gets a little bit messy. But as soon as we approach that override and that 1, 2, 3, that's when I'll be very sharp and I'll be looking at taking this. This could potentially shape up on Monday, Tuesday. So that's something I'm quite excited about. If this does start to commit, then I'll wait for a flag further down. But I think that is one of the main reasons why I've got Aussie CAD on watch this week. Next one I'm looking at is GU. So GU is actually very similar to Aussie CAD as well, in the sense that we have that 1, 2, 3 squeeze, but in this case scenario, we've actually bypassed the 1, 2, 3, and it looks like we're moving towards the second inflection point override zone. So I'm not too fixated on um, you know getting involved right now or kind of looking for an entry. I'm more so interested in this squeeze, the push down, and the flag. Um, Obviously price can develop and get a little bit more complex, could create an expanding, there's a few variations of what could develop into at this point, but I really do like the fact that we are committing. We've come into this 1, 2, 3 now. We squeeze in and we're still in this squeezing little channel here. So let it push up, let it push down, create a flag, could create flags in here and so forth. So obviously this would be readjusted in time as well. And then more so, I'd be looking at something like this with the squeeze, and then perhaps you could call it a hover. Um, so yeah, there's a few variations. I mean, if I just copy and paste that and put that one over here, then I guess you can see both sides of the variation. The reason why this one would be so low is because I'd use that as my line in the sand. So I'd want to see kind of commit, come back into this 1, 2, 3, and then I would like to see it go short. But then being on my management game for that low there, so that if we do break that and continue, I'll be very happy. If we don't, then this could, like I said, become something a little bit more complex. And I don't want to be sitting in that sort of price action. So definitely would have to be on my management game with GU, but GU is looking really nice with the US dollar really selling off right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we did have this push up and go a little bit further to the next override. Hence the reason I drew that on, which I haven't really marked anything on it because it is a fair way away. And there's a lot of news coming out next week for the US dollar, US and GBP pairs. So GBP primarily, I'm just a bit on the ball with it. So I would really like to see this pair commit to the downside, but definitely have to be patient with it. And yeah, that's my gameplay for GBP USD. Sweet. So the next one I've got is crude oil, and crude oil is basically the only other commodity I've got on here at this moment in time. So crude oil is looking really nice. The one thing I do like about crude oil is that we have been basically commit, not committing to the downside fully. We've been stalling and then pushing up, and now we've been correcting for some days, if not weeks now. And this is creating some really nice structure. So what I can see here is we have a one, two, three. We have a middle section which is not the cleanest. Um, we had a push up. We came to this override and we couldn't commit. So there's obviously the section that if this is evolved, this could be a larger flag, but we'll know that by the time we get to this point. Um, but I'm not really convinced that this is going to reject at this override. We'll wait to have to see and evaluate, but I'm more so interested to see price get to this override as we meet with a one, two, three. If we can get there, if we get there a little bit further down the line, then obviously I'll be looking at the next inflection point over here. But if we do come to here, I would see it probably look at the higher value zone out override. But at the moment, if this can impulse and we get enough momentum in crude oil, I would love to see this price go all the way to this one, two, three, complete this price direction and push down, create a flag, and let's go. That's more so how I'd be looking to take it. I think I wouldn't be opting in for risk entry at this point or forecast it. I'll be more so looking for how we approach. If we can approach with a structural one, two, three, um, with a pattern within a pattern, structured approach, then perhaps maybe I may opt in for it or look for the AFT. But I don't think at this point in time I'm going to be looking for that. I think I'll just be keeping it quite simple. Push up and a flag. Not concerned how we get there. Um, Impulsive would pretty much be the way I would like to see it at this point because if we do get corrective, it may not shape up till next week, which is not a problem. It just means that a little bit more patience on the table. But if we get that impulsive approach, I'll look for that impulsive push down flag, and then I'm in for the trade. If I miss that trade, there'll be another opportunity in here, and then hopefully further down with a hover, and then to the 90% rule, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's basically it for crude oil. Okay, USD CAD. So USD CAD's one that I think is going to be phenomenal. It's a really nice pair. I think look, opting in for the USD pairs, I really do like USD CAD. Really do like how the structure forms, and it's not the easiest to trade, but it's definitely one of the most rewarding if you do understand what's happening. And what I do like about this is with all this momentum pushed down, I would like to see some sort of larger flag now. So I'm potentially looking for this is not really a major inflection zone. I think it's just a point where, well, we could say it's major because if we do push away from it and then create this flag, then it forms as significant. But I wouldn't say that it's an override zone. I just say it's just a point of interest that if price just bounces off it, then we could start creating the flag. So I basically marked it on as a point where if we push that and then we start forming the larger structure, this would be something of interest. If we push lower and start creating a flag, would I be interested in taking it? Well, not really. It's not the trade I'm looking for. I'm looking for this larger flag. So I'm looking for not this push up and a flag, but this push up and a flag to confirm that this forecast could potentially play out. So push up, flag pushes up. It could create a larger one, two, three as well, which I'm not too bothered about. But if we get something like this where we push up, push back down, push up again, push back down, then we have the override, or we have the next point of override, push up, and then we look for the push down and a flag. This is where I'll be looking to enter and then look for the sell. If we do get a corrective push up, and we do tend to um, see this sort of price action quite a bit from time to time, then I would essentially be looking at this. So, and then I'll be getting involved here. Um, but more so, that's not the sort of pattern I'm looking for. And then if we do get something like this, then yeah, I could be looking to get involved in this sort of zone here, or yeah, probably in that zone there. Probably that bit could probably wick me out, could get a bit messy. So, but I think that's pretty much the gameplay. But this is a structure that I'd really like to see play out. I think it would be quite interesting to see that on USD CAD. I don't think it'll be uncommon. It could be a little bit messier, but yeah, I think in terms of taking USD CAD, this is what I'm looking for. So yeah, that's basically it for my watch list. So the wildcards. Okay, cool. So going to jump straight into the wildcards now. I've got 6 of them on watch. it was a little bit hard, like I said. But I believe that if there were six, these would be it. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it. GBP New Zealand dollar. Do like this one a lot. This one is quite nice because essentially on the weekly we've been moving down impulsively. I would say that's a near miss, but not too fixated on it. We can still pull up eventually. At the moment we are moving down. We moved down quite impulsively, started to correctively move up. So giving me an indication that we could be making this squeeze to the low. And now what I do like is the fact that we have this 1, 2, 3 leading up structure. And then we're now creating the hover larger flag. So what I do like about this is a 101 play for me, is basically got this 1, 2, 3 completed. We correctively squeezed, so there was no entry there, but then we committed. And now that if we create this larger flag here, I'll be interested to know. This could be a corrective squeeze. And I did evaluate this to think, you know, this could potentially be a play as well, where price could do something like this, which I think is more. I'll just quickly refresh my charts and then just get involved on that. But that's something that I do see happen quite a bit as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a corrective sort of push down here. So I'd correct him back up, create a 1, 2, 3 within there, and then we sell off for somewhere in here. It's not a problem. But in terms of a higher probability trade that I'm looking for and something which feels a little bit more protected is this sort of trade. So I'm seeing this push down, comes in, taps into the override. Pushes back up, so we get a 1, 2 bottoms, two tops, comes into the top, third touch, push down on a flag, get in for my risk, reduce risk entry, and then I'm in for the sell to the 90% rule. Um, this is a sort of trade that I think will be really nice to play out. I think for sure that's like 28 pips, and then to the low it's around about 7%. So, once again, it's still good risk reward. I think it'll be a really nice trade to experience as well. So, that's to the low. And then if we are looking to the further, more so if we do start moving even more aggressively, then I'd be more interested to know if we can really make those lows. But that's GBP New Zealand dollar. Pretty simple. If we do start to come down to here and then start push back up, then it is what it is. If we don't commit here and then we start pulling up, then obviously that's one to be reevaluated later. And then this could become something a little bit messier. But that's GBP New Zealand dollar. One I've got is New Zealand US dollar. So New Zealand US dollar is really nice as well. We have that near miss to the low. If I just pull up on the weekly, we basically had this pinpoint here. We didn't quite get there, and then we kind of scooped away before we could tap into that. So that's something that has obviously been of interest, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. When we do start getting that commitment to the downside, then I can really lay that target zone in play. I think at the moment, what I do like is that we're having this corrective pull up. So this is looking more like just a short-term pullback. And then with this sort of daily sort of tap-in zone here, inflection point, not anything of major significance, but on the daily, it does kind of stick out to me. Drilling down to the 4 hour, what I'd like to see is a sort of push up, push back down with aggression, and then a flag. The more this impulse, the better for me, if anything. But yeah, I would like to see a aggressive push down and a flag. If this was like this, then the flag would have to be a lot lower. I wouldn't look for a larger flag so close to this high. But yeah, I'd look for this inflection point to be tapped in, sort of catch some people thinking this is going to keep going, and then sell off. And I think that's the real gameplay I'm looking for. So that's New Zealand US dollar. GBP CAD. So GBP CAD is one that I think was a bit difficult for me. I had to take it out of my watch list because I had too many. But GBP CAD, if it's going to play out, I think it's going to be some point towards the mid to the end of the week, or we could get a stall and fall into the following week, but not a problem at all. Um, Looking at it on a weekly, it's definitely been very sort of choppy on the way back up. So, I am looking at this potentially having this sort of bullish bull flag sort of feel to it, but I think it's a bit premature at this moment in time. I think looking at the daily, what I do like about this is we have this sort of inflection point override here. We rejected and pushed down, and it's giving me a little bit of an expanding feel to it, but I'm not too convinced of that at this point in time. What I am looking for right now is drilling onto the 4 hour. It's a lot cleaner. I would like to see this correctively pull down for a middle section, push up. Not interested in the first flag here. Pushes up, gets to the override, and then from the override, evaluate what happens. And I think that's the real sort of interesting one for me. This could form into a running channel. It's not uncommon for GBP CAD, but I think looking at GBP CAD, Aussie CAD, Euro CAD, a lot of them are shaping up quite well. And I think this even could just push up, tap into this, and then we could sell. So the 123 wouldn't even be needed. I think it's just a complement towards the thesis of the trade. But I do like the fact that, this override is here, EuroCAD's override is just there, Aussie CAD's override is just here. I think definitely when we get here, mass psychology zone, push up, push down, flag. That's what I'm really looking at. So I'm really, really interested to see how GBP CAD plays out as well. CAD Yen is fairly simple one as well. So the way I see it is on a weekly, we've basically got to this sort of override and we were stalling, we were pushing, we were pushing. There was a potential for like an ascending in here, but we've actually had an impulsive commitment of breaking this small trend. So this could actually be a beginning of a new leaf for this pair. What I would like to see is sort of a push down further, just kind of breaking below this price, negating any sort of larger flag sort of, um, sort of forecasts. Push down creates a nice, I would say, larger flag in this sense here, where we create this sort of 1, 2, 3, and then I'll look to capitalize even with the override in there. That's the only way I'll be looking to get involved in CAD Yen. But I think for a lot of yen pairs, especially US yen as well, it was quite hard to filter out, which hopefully I'll talk about it after I've gone through the wild cards. But yeah, I think CAD Yen is the one that I've kind of gone for. I think in terms of yen pairs, they're all looking pretty good at the moment. So yeah, cool. Euro Aussie. So Euro Aussie is also really nice. I've basically had to read between the lines here. So this doesn't have to be fully confirmed. This is not I would say, this is not a sort of certified sort of trade because the angle can really depend on sort of the way the structure forms. So I do like the fact that we've created this not so clean middle section here. I wouldn't say it's the most confirmed middle section in a sense, but it's definitely looking like one right now for this potential pattern. So what I do like now is if we can get some level of commitment in here where essentially what we can do is, let's say we look at it like this. So we have a 1, 2, 3 leading to the override, perhaps maybe a slight mass psychology breakout, push back in. We have a push up and a flag in here, not looking to take this trade. One of the reasons why it's on my wild cards, I'll be looking for price getting there. When price gets to this point over here, that's when I'll be looking for the push down and the flag. Um, so yeah, just essentially looking for the mass psychology, push down, price comes back in, and then we flag, and then we're in for the trade. And then that push down and a flag is the trade I'm looking for. So yeah, essentially that is the trade I'm going for. So 1, 2, 3 override, override two. Perhaps maybe we could go from that override one, but override two with the 1, 2, 3, push down on a flag. That's the gameplay. Push up on a flag from here kind of gives me the confirmation that this could be the potential pattern forming. If this doesn't really play out, then I'll have to reevaluate, look at the charts again, reanalyze it, and then decide if I want to keep it or take it off watch. And that is something that I do quite a bit now. Sometimes a pair just doesn't shape up and you just leave it. And then later on the week, um, some sort of formation is formed and it wasn't exactly as you forecasted it, but it's near enough good and it's in your plan, so you can still look to take a trade. But that's why we go through the forecasts. Euro, New Zealand dollar. Now, this is last but not least by far. This is one that I also wanted to put onto my sort of watch list, but then I thought, compared to the other ones, it's not quite ready yet, and it could form beginning of next week. So I think it's one to be patient with. But what I do like about this is if I go to the higher time frames, we did tap into this override, and now we've, just like we saw with Kajen, we had that commitment where we pushed away, and now we're just creating some larger flag. Now it's getting a little bit steeper in the sense of the higher time frame where we are pulling back quite sharp. But I think in terms of tapping into this override section and this override section, if this creates a nice middle section here, you can get a little bit more wider the angle, so I'm not too concerned about the angle. But tap into this 1, 2, 3, we push up, we get to this point here, and then I'll be looking for the push down and a flag, depending on how the approach is. But I have a strong feeling that this could be an impulsive approach. Just got to wait. Could be corrective, could be structured. Just wait, see that RO3. Once we get that, we'll see where we go. Override is obviously on the table as well, but the override two is what I'm looking for because it taps into the 1, 2, 3, and then we get a push down and flag, and then that's all game from there. So It's basically what I'm looking at for my wildcards. So yeah, thanks. If you want to see the ones that I filtered out and why, then stay tuned. Go, let's do this. So we have the purple list. Purple list is basically the list that I filtered out. So NAS 100 was in there. Essentially, I did see this, and I thought, oh, okay, you know what? If I'm going to be getting involved, but it's an impulsive approach. I'd look for that impulse, bang, bang. But to be honest, looking at it, I don't think I'm going to be looking at this. I mean, there's it's not really the sort of pair I'm looking for right now. Definitely has potential. Definitely is good trade. I think it definitely could be, a big winner, but I just opted out for it, plain and simple. I think, I'd look for something if there was something a lot larger, something like that, and then we were up here in structure, and then creating something like that. Then, I'd wait for sort of, something like that. I think that's the sort of trade that I'll look for. So after evaluating that and seeing, the sort of trades that I want and don't want, I just decided NAS 100 is not one that I'm going to keep. So GBP Swiss. GBP Swiss is nice. GBP Swiss, it's a bit of an annoying one because we tapped into this low, but I think we definitely have potential to get to that low. The 1, 2, 3 is the nice approach we saw. So 1, 2, 3. If we get a push up and a flag, we could be all game for this buy for USD Swiss, GBP Swiss, sorry. Um, and yeah, I think that sort of corrective squeeze giving me that good feel for this buy. But I think at this moment in time, I just left it. Had a lot of other pairs on the table, and we've only just tapped into that zone, so there'll be an abundance of opportunity in the future anyway. Aussie yen. Aussie yen was the third yen pair out of the all of them that I was going to go opt for. But I think how it's playing out right now is a little bit messy, and I would like to see it tap into here before we go short. So that was the gameplay that I was going for. But I think comparing it to the other yen pairs, they're just in better value areas. They've done a lot more in a higher time frame. I was just a little bit more interested in those. So but the way I would have taken this was essentially, looking at it like this, and then are we going in for this long? That's the question. And then if we're not, are we tapping into this low? And then when we do tap into this low, what's happening? But yeah, so that was Aussie yen. Decided to opt out for it. Not really going to keep it on, but definitely is a solid pair if you have got it on watch. Similar GA. GA, I do like this a lot. GA, even though I've been seeing a lot of people put this for the buy, I do like this for the sell. I do like that this could potentially be corrective squeeze to this low before we go high. And I wouldn't be surprised because I was looking at these value points for quite a while and thinking, well, we haven't really tapped into that. Are we going to create something larger before we go in for this massive bull run? Um, so what I am interested in is, do we get a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to this low, and then we go? So I think if that was going to play out, that would be a monster trade. So this is one that I think I'm just going to keep monitoring throughout the week. I might keep it as like an extra wild card on the side. Probably not going to take a trade on it, but if we do get tap into these value zones, oh, for sure, I'll be interested in that. So, yeah, that's basically where I'm at with this. CAD Swiss. CAD Swiss is a really interesting one because we are in the higher value area mass psychology override zone. We've approached it incredibly impulsive. Which seeing it previous price when we did do this, we did pull back, but it got very messy and corrective, and we could pull back sharply, and I think that was the sort of trade that I was hoping for. But I think if that happens, I'll have more than enough time to get involved in this sort of trade, because it may be one of those times where this just takes a dip, pushes back up, creates continuation. By next week, we're ready to get involved in something a little bit better. But that's CAD Swiss basically. USD yen. Now, this was the probably the best one out of all of them, but it just wasn't close enough ready for me. What I wanted to see was a couple things. If we're going to create a larger 1, 2, 3, are we going to create a corrective squeeze to this high? Are we creating a larger flag? I wanted to see something a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised if we do create something a little bit smaller in here and then we sell off. That's completely fine. I think to be involved on a USD sell at the moment is good because it works hand in hand with the Dixie, but um, yeah, I just opted out for it, unfortunately in the end. But We'll see. I'll monitor it on the sidelines as well. Probably won't take any trades on it, but phenomenal. Honestly, phenomenal instrument. Euro Swiss. Euro Swiss is also looking really nice. It's exactly the same gameplay as USD Yen, but the only reason I opted out is because we actually tapped into this low. So if we did start to correctively squeeze up, I didn't want this to just push up higher, and then I missed the picture of this was inflection point that kind of just played out. So for that reason, I kind of just took Euro Swiss out, but Euro Swiss to the downside was basically what I was looking at, but we just really didn't have that commitment. We had that sort of corrective push down, corrective push up, push down, corrective sort of running channel, and then we committed now, and then are we going to create a flag and commit? Or there's a lot of variations on the table, but I think by the time I get involved in this, it'll be probably a much larger daily structure where I'll be getting involved. But that's basically it for my purple list. And then if we just jump into the Cayenne list, which is the one for next week, the week after. Um, Keeping this really simple. One, two, three. It's not ready yet. I'm looking at this probably next week, week after, larger daily structure. Um, that's quite nice, really. It's one to definitely check out. EJ is just in the middle at the moment. If it sells off, it sells off. If it pulls up, we get this middle section. We get this one, two, three. Hella nice. Will we get impulsive action? If we do, I'll be so impressed. But yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Looking at this one as well. I think this will be later on in the month, probably 2 weeks from now. It's a hell of a forecast. I mean, future trading at its finest. Looking at it there, comes back to middle section, and we're off. Angle could be slightly changed. Euro GBP. Now, this was a phenomenal pair. I think I'm going to be so happy to capitalize on this one soon. One, two, three, middle section forming as we speak. Comes in, taps in Thursday 24th. Wednesday, Friday 24th, probably a Friday trade, but we'll see. Euro GBP and then New Zealand CAD, New Zealand Swiss, sorry. New Zealand Swiss, middle section, boom, comes up, taps in, flag, pups up, pups up, flag, and let's go. And then we come into that one, two, three. So I'll probably be looking to get involved in that flag. That no, well, one, two, three is where it's at. So yeah, that's basically it really. And then there was quite a few that I took off really. Aussie, New Zealand, Swiss yen, Euro USD, Euro USD. That is actually another one that I was looking at. So with the DXY, I was just thinking the push down on the flag's not what I'm looking for right now. I don't see nothing major significant on DXY turning around. So push up further, breaks above this, creates a flag and goes. Looking at the DXY, only reason I'm looking at that is because on the DXY, we've basically broke between that low. So we could just continue selling off to this low now, or create some sort of flag. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking at. And yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to put USD, Euro USD on watch, but I think it's just some of these other pairs were just something more interesting to me, so opted out of it. Didn't have a good feeling for it. Don't think at this moment in time there's enough data there for me to evaluate it. But what I tend to do on a Monday is I'll go back over the charts, look over all of them because we get gaps, we get a lot of volatility coming over the market, especially with times like this. Charts change, and then a little bit of data can make a big difference. So I'll reevaluate, look over the data, and if there's something, there's something, and that's it basically.